In the 13th century, a stone fortress was a massive capital investment with a specific purpose. Military architecture existed to guard trade routes, secure vulnerable borders, and provide a garrison with the resources to survive a siege from the outside world. Houska Castle represents a total subversion of these rules. Built between 1270 and 1280 during the reign of King Ottokar II, the structure ignores almost every principle of medieval defensive engineering. It sits in a remote, mountainous region of the Bohemian Forest, 47 kilometers north of Prague. It guards no strategic mountain passes, stands miles away from trade routes or political borders. The logistics are even more baffling. The castle was constructed without a kitchen and with no access to a natural water source. In a standard military conflict, the lack of a well would force surrender within days. Every traditional reason for this building's existence is missing. Because the walls provide no advantage against an external army, the focus of the architecture shifts entirely to the ground beneath the floorboards. The layout of the defenses confirms this inward focus. While the exterior walls are thick and imposing, the primary arrow slits and fortifications are oriented toward the central courtyard, directing the garrison's fire into the heart of the castle rather than at the forest. On the outer perimeter, the windows are deceptive. They are solid stone facades, decorative reliefs that look like glass from the woods, but allow no light into the rooms and offer no view of the outside. This isolation was built into the vertical layout as well. The original design omitted stairs leading from the upper living quarters down to the courtyard level. These anomalies transformed the courtyard into a four-winged containment unit. The builders constructed a cage of stone and mortar, designed to monitor and trap whatever occupied the center of the site. Before construction began, the site was defined by a single geological feature, a massive, deep chasm in the limestone. 13th century folklore in the region held that this pit was a physical gateway to the underworld. Locals described winged, half-human creatures emerging from the hole at night to kill livestock and drag travelers into the dark. For the surrounding villages, this wasn't just a cave. It was a permanent rupture in the fabric of the world that required a physical seal to keep the entities inside. To understand the nature of the chasm, a local duke initiated a morbid experiment to discover what lay at the bottom. He offered a full pardon to a prisoner condemned to death, on one condition: he had to be lowered by rope into the absolute depths of the abyss and report back on his findings. The man agreed. The descent took several minutes, his body disappearing into a pitch black that seemed to swallow the light. For a time, the only sound was the heavy creaking of the rope as he dropped deeper into the earth. Then the screaming began. A series of blood-curdling cries echoed up the shaft, prompting the men above to frantically haul the rope back to the surface. When the prisoner was finally retrieved, his appearance was transformed. His hair was stark white, his face deeply wrinkled, and his mind shattered. The man never regained his sanity. He died just days later from the effects of pure terror. This outcome convinced King Ottokar II that the legends were accurate. He commissioned the construction of Houska Castle as a massive stone plug, designed to seal the chasm forever. The physical masonry was only the first layer of the defense. To maintain the seal, the builders integrated theology into the castle's architecture. They built a Gothic chapel directly over the gaping hole, effectively capping the portal with a consecrated floor. The environment inside remains unsettling. Even in dry weather, the chapel walls are known to perpetually weep moisture, as if the rock itself is reacting to the space. They dedicated the chapel to the Archangel Michael, who, in the Book of Revelation, leads the fight against the forces of Satan. But the sacred imagery is countered by unsettling frescoes. One depicts a left-handed female centaur, a pagan symbol of the demonic, aiming a bow at a human figure. This collision of Christian and pagan symbols serves as a pictorial warning. The chapel was designed as a spiritual barrier, using every available icon to hold back the entities trapped beneath the floor. In the centuries that followed, the story of the gateway survived, drawing a succession of history's most sinister figures to the castle gates. In the mid-1600s, Europe was tearing itself apart during the 30 Years' War. a Swedish mercenary commander named Aranto arrived in Bohemia. He bypassed strategic military targets to claim the remote Houska Castle for himself. Aranto was widely feared as a practitioner of the dark arts. He converted the isolated fortress into a secure laboratory for alchemy and necromancy. Aranto looked past the stone walls, focused entirely on the sealed chasm beneath the chapel floor. He performed dark rituals here, attempting to harness the slate's concentrated negative energy to brew the elixir of eternal life. His experiments terrified the surrounding villages. Eventually, local hunters decided they could no longer tolerate his presence. Under the cover of darkness, they crept up to the castle walls and assassinated the rogue commander through one of the windows. Aranto's bloody end established a precedent. Whether or not the pit contained actual demons, its legend had gained the power to pull occult practitioners into a very real cycle of violence. Fast forward to World War II. Between 1939 and 1945, the German military occupied Czechoslovakia and seized Houska. Once again, an armed force took control of a facility with zero tactical value. The entire operation fell under the command of SS leader Heinrich Himmler. His intense interest in mysticism generated rumor that the Nazis were trying to weaponize the gateway's supernatural power against the Allies. While tales of SS officers summoning demons make for good folklore, the documented reality of what happened inside the castle is equally chilling. The facility was handed over to a specific branch of the Reich Main Security Office. This diagram shows the organizational structure of the Nazi security apparatus. Over here is Amt 7, a specialized intelligence unit dedicated entirely to ideological research. Their primary job was confiscating esoteric, Jewish, and Masonic texts from across Europe. As Allied bombings devastated Berlin, the Nazis needed a safe location to hoard their stolen knowledge. They funneled more than 140,000 looted volumes of banned occult literature directly into Houska Castle. When Russian and American troops closed in during the spring of 1945, the SS retreated. Following strict protocol, they destroyed all operational records, leaving the exact nature of their ideological experiments completely erased from history. Years later, during modern renovations, excavators unearthed a macabre secret. The executed skeletons of several German soldiers were found buried beneath the castle floors, pointing to desperate internal purges or unspeakable rituals before the retreat. The Nazi presence added a layer of institutional darkness to the site, shifting its role from a place of local superstition to a hub for curated occult knowledge and high-level ideological research. Today, the castle belongs to descendants of its pre-war owners and is open to the public, but the legacy of Aranto and the SS remains palpable to anyone who walks its halls. Physical and biological anomalies still plague the grounds. Caretakers and visitors routinely find dead birds that have dropped from the sky, littering the inner courtyard. Paranormal investigators flock to the site, consistently reporting the same phenomena. They capture disembodied voices on audio recorders and report fleeting shadow figures darting across the faded frescoes of the chapel. Technology rarely functions as intended here. Fully charged camera batteries drain in seconds inside the chapel, and tourists frequently return to the parking lot to find their car engines dead, refusing to turn over. It forces a difficult question. Are these modern anomalies leaking from a literal demonic journal buried beneath the limestone, or is the site reacting to the immense psychological weight of the atrocities committed above it?